Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well and welcome to Shadows of Change 2.0. Today, my friends, we're going to be taking a look at all the new abilities and units for Grand Cathay. We're going to be talking about their applications in multiplayer. And lastly, at the very end of the video, we're going to be plugging in a good old land battle to showcase some of these units in action. So without further ado, let us begin with hands down the coolest unit and probably the entire update, which is going to be Cathay the Watcher. So this guy is a big fancy terracotta with a great bow essentially. So he's kind of similar in terms of functionality to a Bone Giant. You're paying almost 1,000 gold more at 2,400, but he's very good in melee as well. So you have to kind of evaluate if that's going to be worth it for you in multiplayer. And his abilities, let's take a look. His first ability here is the Giant Leap. This is just so rad, so check this out. It does big AoE damage when he comes down with monstrous impact and does slow, so very similar to the Dreadquake Mortar when it hits something. It doesn't do quite as much damage as the Dreadquake, but it looks very rad. So he jumps up in the sky, he comes down and basically squashes anybody that's on him. So obviously the weakness of a giant bow monster is going to be getting tar pitted by melee. So if there's like some Ungor Spears, for example, standing on him, that is going to be helpful for routing those guys off because it will do some substantial damage, right? And then on top of that, he causes terror. So it can lead to terror routes against chaff units. It's a little bit contingent on him being surrounded correctly. Like if they're only in his frontal arc, it doesn't do that much damage. But honestly, in terms of rule of cool, which as a tabletop player is very important to me, it's great. So it's fun. His next ability is called the Watch by the Watcher. So it has infinite range and it reveals units. Now you'll notice there's a caveat at the bottom said this unit is permanently visible to the enemy regardless of line of sight once they're revealed. Revealed units are not affected by the following attributes: hiding in the forest, stalk, and unspottable. So we're going to pop this right now. I've hidden some beastmen over in the keep here, and it should reveal some of them. So we've popped it, and Watch by the Watcher. Let's see if it reveals the beastmen units. Okay, so they're in here. Maybe they need to be a little bit closer. The effect range does say it's infinite. Okay, so yes, it has revealed the Watch by the Watcher here. So he's going to be permanently visible to me at this point, it would appear, or at least he's revealed for this duration. So that's the Beast Lord. And then I did also hide an Ungor Raider in here. So it looks like they have the Stalker Unspottable. Oh, it actually revealed the stalked unit. Okay, that's really cool. So these bad boys are going to be revealed. So if you're playing against, like, I wasn't quite sure about the application, wanted to test it with you guys. But if you are playing against, like, Eshin or something sneaky, kind of trying to get in your backfield, it will reveal them because now these Ungor Raiders are visible, which is really cool. So his other ability is going to be the Wind Bow, and you guys are going to be seeing this later on in the battle. It's kind of like the Moon Bow for Lithanar a little bit. It has build-up time, but the scaled projectile damage against combatants with missing health, so it has like an execute function. Does magic damage, has long range, and yeah, it does some work. It seems to be good against SEs and okay against like okay against medium-sized infantry units as well. I haven't really, like, a lot of abilities in this game will say, oh, good against medium targets, and then suddenly it's really good against like an SE. So you kind of got to get some testing in there and give it a good old college try. Now, my honest opinions, I think this unit is super cool. I think he's going to be really fun in campaign. It will be a staple of many armies, like just super rad. He does have a couple other abilities, the Master of the Stone Legions. So if you're in campaign and you have like a meme army of like your various, terracotta stuff or the Jade Lions, whatever, you can give them physical resist and melee defense. Maybe for like a land battle build where you're in a box or like a really defensive formation, and you have another Sentinel. You can get the physical resist on that. That's not terrible, but as far as I think his price point's a little bit too high for multiplayer. 2,400 is really steep, but I mean, he does a lot. So it's hard to price him cheaper than that. And he is also, you can see a Harmony Amplifier, 50%, which is rad. So he brings so much to the table, maybe as like a one-off. So let's say you're playing against like a melee centered faction that has to rush you. You could have this guy in the middle of like a defensive Cathay formation with a couple blimps. If you're playing land battle. In Dom, I think it's going to be tricky to make him work, but situationally, like, he does instantly pick off monstrous models. So if you're playing against like Beastman and you're expecting Butchers of Kalkengard or something, he could be really good at picking those off. I don't know. I think he's a little bit too expensive. I have tested him in a few games and he hasn't ever really been able to pay for himself. He's come close a couple times, but man, 2,400 is a steep price point. You better be doing some serious lifting with that. But overall, just a super fun unit to use, and I'm going to find any excuse I can to get this guy in battle. So we'll be taking a look over at the bird next. So next up, we have the Great Moonbird. This thing is kind of interesting. My only kind of gripe with it is the fact that it doesn't really have good armor piercing. Granted, Cathay did get an armor piercing flying monster in this pack as well with the Celestial line, which we'll be taking a look at in just a hot minute. But this guy packs a bit of a punch, very similar to like a Phoenix, but he does lack AP, like I said, very quick at 120 speed. And he does have the Moon Flare ability, which does a little bit of a vortex below him. So much like the Arcane Phoenix of the Hives, we'll show you guys this real quick. And of course, you'll be seeing him in battles in the future here. So yeah, you can see he kind of strokes the ground a little bit. The cool part is he doesn't have to land to do it. So you can kind of just sit above a target and drop that. But overall, he's okay. Decent combat stats, certainly hits hard. So against like light armor, maybe against like Nurgle, he could be good. Like you could use his Vortex against some of the Nurgle infantry on the ground, which are very slow and can't really dodge it. He hits hard, and you don't need a ton of AP against like some of the Nurgle demon units, like Toads and whatnot. But overall, I don't really think this thing will see too much play in domination mode. Maybe in land battle, it might see a little bit more play, like a double Great Moonbird build, some sort of a gooning build. You could have him like 2 of these with one of the dragon characters and have a very nasty, fast goon squad. But I don't know. Overall, it's a very cool unit. I think it'll be very fun in campaign. But as far as its multiplayer applications, I think it's going to be kind of bad and probably won't see too much play. But who knows? I could be wrong. And if it is going to see play, like some of those like double SE goon squad type builds usually are more focused on land battle, where you'll see the SEs really shine. Whereas like a flying SE is going to be losing out. It needs to be very good to be functional and dumb, right? Because it's not going to be on the objectives or providing much there. But yeah, Moonbird's rad, man. Hopefully I'm wrong about it. I hope to be wrong, because it's pretty neat for sure. And now on to the next unit. And now we have the Moonbird's slower armor-piercing cousin. So he's got quite a bit less speed. Yeah, he's at 85, so it's going to be 35 less speed. And yeah, he's got some armor as well, whereas the Moonbird's going to be rocking 40. So this is like more of a durable, tanky, a terror-causing unit that you're going to be throwing into the formation and hoping he can just kind of grind it out. He does also have the Fearsome Roar, which I like this. It's a really cool mechanic. It lowers leadership and removes immune psychology, so yeah, what would be some applications for this? Like terror routing a dwarven flank, for example. But again, I think that I don't know if he's going to make the cut. Like you have the big dragon characters as like your terror-causing units. Maybe in niche situations where you're looking to do leadership bombs. I actually don't hate this guy against Skaven. Granted, this is on a long cooldown. It is a 1.5-minute cooldown, so it's not like something you can do super often. But -8 leadership in conjunction with terror is really good, because like that's kind of enough of a threshold, which if you're attacking a low leadership unit like an Ungor or a Skaven Slave or a Clan Rat that has 50 leadership, you can pop this, and it's going to rout them very quickly with the terror. On top of that, he does have the Wounded Pride, so you can see when his hit points are less than 50%, he gets a little bit of a bolster to his stats, which will help counteract the wounds profile. And yeah, he's got the Harmony of Yang. He's pretty cool. I think that this guy is better than the Great Moonbird. I mean, the speed is nice on the Moonbird, but this guy's fast enough. He's got good AP. Similar charge bonus, and also does have that leadership discouraging effect that removes ITP. So I think that you'll probably, if any, between these two characters, see the Celestial line getting a little bit more sweaty hot action. But yeah, very cool unit. And now we're on to the new hero character. So here we have the Gatemaster. He's a bit of a hybrid fighter. He does have decent melee combat stats in 46 and 55. Also very tanky with incredibly high leadership, which is pretty standard for a lot of different Cathay characters. But where he really shines is going to be at distance. He does have an armor-piercing crossbow that hits substantially. It's pretty good. 316 weapon strength ain't bad. And as far as his other abilities go, he does have the Bolt Storm. So this is going to be like a magic missile ability. As long as he's not in melee, you can use this. I've tried it a little bit. It's okay. It does shoot kind of a quick barrage of missiles here, and it has a long range too. So this kind of like feels like an Arrow of Kernus to me. Like let's say you're in a situation with Grand Cathay where you're expecting like an artillery duel. You can bring 2 of these guys and kind of move them up and use their bolt fire to snipe like bolt throwers or different things like that. So that could be the applications of this guy. On top of that, he does have the Bastion Defender, which is kind of cute. It makes your nearby units immune to flanking and gives you melee defense. It's not bad. Overall, I think that where he would be used is like a 2 of, so you have like 2 of the dragon characters, or a cheap dragon or a cheap dragon-blooded lord flying around, and have 2 of these guys as like a sniper. Very much how you would use like the Infernal Castellans to snipe like a dragon character, like a flying monster that's going to be kind of terrorizing you. Like maybe against like Kairos, for example, who's very oppressive in land battle. You could whip 2 of these bad boys out and have them sitting and shooting. As far as his other abilities, he does have Tactician, so very standard, going to be giving reload and defense. He's got the Bulwark of the Gate, which is going to be giving armor and missile block, and then armor when he's kind of chilling out. Will of the Dragon's very standard leadership buff, and then Warrior Bane. So Warrior Bane isn't a terrible item. 8% debuff is, I can see in land battle, if you're going for a Cathay box build, to slap one of these guys in here, right? Just to kind of obey, I don't know if SEs obey the attacking rule anymore, probably not, but you would have them in there so when they attack you, kind of like in a Nurgle sense, they're going to be getting penalized. And 8% is pretty good off like a 500, 600 weapon strength monster, off a hard-hitting like Chosen unit, whatever. That 8% can add up. So I think that he'll see more play. If I had to rank the viability of all the Cathay stuff, I think most of the stuff they got is very fun and flavorful. It's going to be great in campaign and in casual play. I don't think too much of it will see a lot of action. Maybe I think you'll see the Gatemaster see a little bit of play in like a Cathay box kind of build, and then maybe Satang will see a little bit of love. I think there's some room to experiment. Definitely better. Like all these units are going to be more land battle focused, I think. As far as Dom mode, I think his Celestial Line isn't a terrible idea, because if you're going for a Dragon-Blooded Lord, his Celestial Line could be a very quick terror piece, which you could use to bunker bust somebody off an objective. So yeah, I overall think they're really fun, and I'm certainly happy with these units. I think they're going to add a lot of flavor and a lot of fun to certain matchups. Granted, I think most of them are going to be more casually applied, but I really hope I'm wrong. I hope Satang is really good. I think if I had to rank them, probably the Gate Master and the Celestial Lion and Satang are going to be decent, and then the Great Moonbird could be, you know, giving us some good pigeon droppings, but again, hope I'm wrong. It looks very cool. Look at his beak. That thing's pretty ferocious. All right, guys, now we're going to be on to the old battle. Brace yourselves, it was a really fun one. It is going to be Grand Cathay facing off against the Lizard. Alright, now it's time for the Grand Cathay Showcase, and in this battle we are going to be using Satang the Watcher in tandem with some blimps, the Iron Dragon, and facing off against Tim the Wilder, who's going to be bringing a very meta Lizardman build. So this will be a good test, right? Tim is one of our top players in Domination. He's also an incredibly good land battle player as well. So if it's able to work here against Tim, who's using an extremely meta and relatively sweaty build, you know, he's got the Life Slant, a super wide build, Crocsgores, not really too much memeage here, then it will certainly, you know, say something good about old Satang. Now for my build, it's going to be Jades in the front with the Dune Dragons in the secondary, Peasant Long Spearmen, and we do have a couple blimps. So Sky Lantern's going to be providing harmony, the Sky Junk going to be dropping some fat payloads on top of Skinks and lightly armored units. Satang, I figured he'd be good at picking off a Slan. So for example, if the only SE he had was a Slan, I would be able to kind of shoot at that, but also good at picking off Crocsgore models and potentially terror-routing some of the cheaper chaff units. Iron Dragon is amazing, don't really need to talk about that. He's able to roast units down with his good old breath attack and is a big scary fighter himself. And last but not least, Crowmen in the backfield. For Tim, is very, very standard, like I said. Crocsgores, one of them immediately getting picked off. The animations on Satang are so cool. I feel like we just got to sit over here and watch this bad boy. But he does rip a shot downtown and does immediately pick off a Crocsgore unit. So Tim is trying to juke. But honestly, this is kind of nice. You can't really juke. His missile shot is very accurate and very quick. So I'm just kind of switching between Crocsgore units. And we were able to get 2 Crocsgores. So obviously camping a little bit further back, like back here, would have been much stronger. But you know, I just wanted to get to the action very quickly. So Iron Dragon going to be going into dragon form here and getting ready to roast some of these Skinks down. Another shot from Satang is able to pick off 2 Crocsgores for 1. So honestly, his debut has been pretty good, but it's not any different than what you would see from a Bone Giant. A Bone Giant would be doing pretty much the exact same amount of damage, but where he'll shine is when he's able to go fisticuffs and melee. So there you go, another pot shot on the Crocsgores. Crocsgores get pounded there. We do get a breath attack from the Iron Dragon on these Skink cohorts of Javelins. Meanwhile, there's going to be a big flank coming down, so we do have the Feral Cold Ones in the bushes. And we have the Onyx Crowmen there to countercharge. So the Crowmen are going to countercharge here. Jade Warrior's going to get swamped a little bit, but they do have Harmony, which is nice. So hopefully they'll be able to endure that, while the Crowmen get a pretty good charge against the Feral Cold Ones, and another one's going to be coming around the back to wrap that up. Now, up in the front lines, Jade Warrior's engaging, and we do have the Iron Dragon trying to tarp it where he can. Satang going to be dropping another bow shot, and he does nail that Stegodon right in the face and apply Shield Breaker. Not that it matters there. But I feel like nothing matters tactically speaking. We just got to watch this thing, and I will do my best to capture all the cool animations that it does have. So here comes another shot from the Ushapti, not Ushapti Giant. It blasts that Stegodon, and so far I'm pretty happy with its performance. It has probably gotten about 500 or 600 value, maybe somewhere in that ballpark. Crowmen do get swarmed into the Feral Cold Ones. Also, guys, something to talk about, which we'll do in a later video, is the Rampage reworked. Rampage has been reworked. Saurus are going to be working differently here, and we will do that in a later video, but it has been reworked. And if you guys want to screenshot it and take a look here, you can go ahead and take a peek at that. Now, as far as the fighting goes, elsewhere, the Jade Warriors in the front are holding relatively well. I don't really have too many squishy parts of my army. Satang is now in melee, so some of the Skinks have kind of squeaked through, and I'm going to be flying the Iron Dragon back here, trying to terror out some of those bad boys off. Oh, look at the jump attack, and boom, there goes the shot. Didn't seem to do as much damage against the Stegodon, so it does scale based on mything health. So I think it would have been slightly better to use against like a Saurus unit or a unit like that that's kind of busted up at half health here. But nonetheless, the Lizardmen have broken through the front line. Crocsgores, of course, taking Jade Warriors to pound town with the help of their little Skink buddies. Skinks have been buffed in this this update, so I believe they got some buffs, and we'll go over that in all the patch notes and whatnot. But today we're going to be focusing on the Cathay stuff, or at least in this video. Spear's trying to hold out on the flanks. In the front line, the Crocsgores and Feral Cold Ones. A lot of really cost-effective armor piercing here. Kind of made me feel as if I should have just brought like Albert Spam. Would have been very resilient against the Crocsgores and some of the other monsters. Meanwhile, on the tree line, the Crowmen holding very well against the Feral Cold Ones when they're backed up here by Zhao Meng. So I did use Watch by the Watcher, so the entire army's revealed. If you did have any stealth units kind of creeping around, I would be able to find them. Another shot point blank does get missed, unfortunately. Now Satang is going to be dragged into melee combat here. And my apologies if I'm not giving you the most dynamic look at the battlefield, but I really, really want to make sure that I don't miss his jumping animation and can show you how that looks. So he's going to be duking it out here in the pits, and oh, there it goes. Here comes the jump, and he slams and space jams down and crushes a fair amount of the Skinks back here. But he wasn't really bunched up on me. I was trying to do it more for the slowing effect because I wanted to escape. So I slowed down the Crocsgores with jump, they're going to be slowed down for a couple more seconds here, and then it does allow me a window of time to kind of weasel away. But it wasn't long enough, really. I'm not going to be able to create enough distance, but Satang does get away. Another breath attack just roasting through those units. Balance of power is pretty even, and honestly, in terms of the damage done at this point, we were pretty even as far as the score goes. But he does have a big swarming army, so maybe he is going to be able to concave in and get some nasty damage. Satang is chilling out, and he's going to continue ripping shots, so he's gotten back in position. He's gotten 1,000 value. He does miss a point-blank shot, so it looks like he's inherited that lovely trait from his Bone Giant cousin. Doom Dragon's here gets slapped with the Blood Statue of Spite. Really, really nice cast there by Tim, while the Iron Dragon is going to continue battling these. And the battle rage is on. It does indeed. A lot of skinks and a ton of poke going to be coming in. These little skink bastards, they do quite a bit of armor pierce. I mean, it's only 2 AP, but man, it feels like a lot more. It adds up. Kroxigor is going to be swarming towards the big man. So Satang is going to be having to do Mortal Kombat here. I believe I put him back in guard mode and have him keep shooting, or maybe he's going to be turning to fight here in just a second. Both blimps are firing off pretty well. I've always been a big fan of Sky Junks. I feel like they're pretty good. Just kind of sitting there providing harmony and disrupting like infantry formations. And there's the jump bow attack. So I do shoot it over there towards this slant, but it looks like it kind of missed. And maybe it really just is intended to be used against like infantry packs. I had seen it do okay against SEs and a little bit of testing as well, so perhaps we'll find out. Stegadon here getting a little bit beat up, being shot by the big artillery piece has paid some huge dividends, but Tim has a nasty concave of skinks here. And hey, if you're ever wondering how to get rid of a giant 100 armor beast with tons of HP, it's non-armor piercing missiles en masse. Just millions of peppering darts dragging down my giant beast here, and he is certainly having a relatively bad time. So the Sky Lantern still shooting, breath attack there once again from the Iron Dragon. Going to be doing some work as the bounce bar does start to ebb a little bit in the favor of the dinos. A big expensive beastie here. Has he paid for himself? Has he gotten close? He's at 1,300 HP, and overall is going to be rocking only 1,200 value. So he tried his best. I mean, he ripped shots the entire game, but he's going to be going down. Very dramatic fall. Timber! And he goes down and crushes a bunch of skinks on the way down. But overall, you know, he put up a decent fight. As far as most of my army goes, that thing's 2,400. That's like 4 or 5 infantry units worth. It's really pricey. So that's certainly something that needs to pay for itself. Blimps, of course, doing good. Iron Dragon's doing good. But that is basically going to be it, ladies and gentlemen, as it's just the Iron Dragon grinding. And, you know, he's really good and does have a massive heal, but I will end up getting army loss because of his HP. He doesn't quite have enough on the lanterns or other units on the battlefield. But that was a really fun kind of use. I played a couple other matches with him where he was able to get closer to getting his value back, but overall, I do think he's a little bit too expensive for competitive multiplayer. I think for casual multiplayer and maybe some really niche applications, I can see him being okay. Like maybe against like an artillery faction like Vampire Coast or Tomb Kings. I'd have to see how his ability does against like Ushabti Great Bows, but his bow ability could be nice at sniping enemy artillery if it's not as good against SEs. His jumping ability is very cute, but overall, yeah, he's a lot of fun. Time, you know, we still have a lot of time to figure out if he's good, but I think that 2,400, man, that is an expensive bone giant that's slightly better in melee, right? So, yeah, maybe him plus a terracotta. You could do him like plus a terracotta to give the ward save to the other one. I'm not sure. And Tim brought a very meta build. You know, I even told him before the games, I'm like, bring a competitive build. I want to see if this thing can actually do anything here. Granted, my build certainly wasn't optimal by any stretch, but we got a good showcase of him. And yeah, he was relatively decent in the beginning at poking the Kroxigors. So maybe if you can stay shooting longer and keep him focusing on the Kroxigors instead of trying to finish off the Stegadon, that could have been better, right? You keep him on the Kroxies the entire time, he picks off 1 or 2 models, and eventually he's going to get through units. So it could have also been user error on my part. Anyways, guys, we'll be back with another one soon, showcasing Tzeentch as well as Kislev, but that is going to be Grand Cathay. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and really excited to kind of mix these guys into tournaments and see how they do.